Welcome to the Sticka mitt hjärta, Knit My Heart podcast. My name is Maivor and I come to you from Vasa on the west coast of Finland. Today is the 11th of October and it's been a long time, I think about 2 months since my last episode. And the main reason for that is that I started a new job at the beginning of August. And that just has taken all of my energy. And also it's very computer concentrated. So I've just tried to stay away from computers and editing when I'm off. But I have not stayed away from knitting. I have knitted a lot, and so I have a lot to show you today, and I may not even have time to show you everything if I don't want this episode to become way too long. But I have socks, I have some hats and shawls, and then I have quite a bit of yarn and some acquisitions that I want to talk to you about. But let's start with what I'm wearing. This is the Green Day vest. It's designed by Mari Moinonen, also named as or called Tikru. And she was a very productive and designer back in, about 10-15 years ago. I don't know if she's designing right now. I haven't seen her in the knitting community recently, so I don't know what the status is with her at the moment. But she designed a lot of she often used cables and some quite intricate cable designs in her patterns. And if I just stand up, this is it's cropped. It's fairly short, and then it has these cables that run down the front. And the story behind this vest is that I started it roughly 10 years ago. Right before my knitting hiatus, which I talked about in maybe episode 2 or something like that. I had to stop knitting because of pain in my shoulders and arms, and just had to give my body a bit of time to rest. So this I knit before that hiatus, and I actually finished it. I didn't weave in the ends, and then it was just left lying in a jar. And so when I got back to knitting about a year and a half ago, I picked this up and I realized, well, I have a finished garment here. Well, what's up with that? Why haven't I finished it? And I just had to weave in the ends and block it, and there it was, and it was finished. So that was an easy enough project to finish. It's knit in Noro yarns, Noro Silk Garden. Noro is a Japanese brand. It was very popular back then in around 2010 and the years before and after that. It's hand dyed, and very characteristic of that yarn was these natural colors. Even though they're dyed, they're not plant colors or anything, but natural colors. And these fairly sort of broad streaks of colors, and also it's kind of it's a very rustic yarn. It's not evenly spun. It's quite loosely spun, and it's a bit bumpy, if you like. So very, very nice to knit with, and I do think that it looks very nice. So it's a shame that it took me 10 years to actually finally start wearing it. But now I'm wearing it, and I'm wearing it as part of the October Knits campaign, or hashtag, if you like, that Kiasbord has launched for October, where she encourages us to wear our knitwear, even if it's old, even if it's been lying on the shelf for a long time. Use your knitwear and wear it during October. So this is my October knits, or my October knit. Um, Other finished projects, let's just jump into it. I have socks. No surprise there. I have a whole heap of socks, and I have a couple of hats, and I have some shawls. First off, let's start with with one pair that I showed you. I had started the last time, but I hadn't gotten very far. These were the July socks, I think, in Kia's boot. The Free Socks 2020 challenge that Kia's boot hosts. And these are the socks Thunder and Lightning by Dawn Henderson, which I started back then. And I used scrap yarns. I didn't have enough to make two of the same kind. So I used one of each, Thunder and Lightning. And I do think that these are kind of funky. This one is made from Dream in Color Smooshy, or Smooshy Dream in Color, a yarn that I bought that was also a really deep stash yarn that I had. It's as you can see, it's not solid black. It has these, it's a bit variegated, very pretty, I think. And the other one is a Sweet Georgia Tough Love sock in the colorway Biscuit, I think. So a really fun and enjoyable knit, and I think a really pretty pattern as well. I found that they were just a little bit tight. I got them just a little bit tight in this section here where the bobbles are, and there's also like a chevron increase decrease which tightens it up a bit. So if you make these, be a little aware of that it pulls it in at the cuff. The pattern pulls it in a little bit. But other than that, they are perfect. But so that was finished quite a long time ago. Then I haven't participated in all the challenges for the Free Socks 2020, but this was the September sock. The mint tea socks. Now, what was the name of the designer? I will put it here. It now eludes me, but the mint tea socks, a free sock pattern, and it has this pretty leaf going down the side, and then just a simple texture along the foot. And Kia, when she launched this, she encouraged us to knit to be inspired by our favorite tea. And so for me, this I would say is white tea, because I really like white tea with different flavors. So I suppose the green can go for mint, for instance, or some other herb. But generally, they're kind of white tea socks. And the yarn is this white silvery yarn is Ulrike by Anki, her BFL sock yarn. Is the color called Birch or something? Not sure now. I've used this before. I used these also in my Winter is Coming socks. Together with another, which were a full color work sock, which together with another yarn. But when it was combined with the other yarn, you couldn't really see this variegation that it actually has. And so I think that shows much more, and it comes out really nicely in these socks. Sorry, I have my computer, so it keeps the screen keeps going black, so I have to adjust it. And the cuff heel and toe, that is a yarn that I have dyed myself with plant dye about a year ago. And I'm sorry to say I don't really remember what dye, what plants I used for this, because it's kind of a khaki greenish gray color, which is actually not that easy to achieve in plant dyeing. So I'm a little surprised that I actually got it. I think I may have used a berry, the aronia berry. It has a different English name now, which I don't remember. But it's a very dark purple berry. And the other yarn that I dyed with it actually turned out purple or purplish brown. But one batch for some reason became this greenish color. I think that's what happened. Anyway, it's the yarn base is Drops Fabel, I think. So it's a natural white yarn base. I'll talk some more about natural dyeing when I talk about my yarns, because I've just dyed a little bit more. But yeah, I think these are really pretty. And they're not finished. I haven't woven in the ends, but finished knitting them. And then I, in between, sometimes you just start an in-between project because, well, you want to. So I started a pair of in-between socks, just scraps, knitting up some scraps. Tried to use up all of my sort of yellow, orangey little pieces of little balls that I had left over, and I used the method helical knitting here, which is that when you knit single stripes, there's no jog, because you always sort of you move the beginning of round, or actually you knit two rounds parallel. It's hard to explain, but if you've not tried it, you can Google helical knitting, and it just looks so nice on the inside because you don't have that jog. You know, there's no jog, no strands that you have that are pulling and tugging at the knitting. So it just looks really nice. And I just dropped the one. So as you can see, these are not identical, except for the cuff, where I had a larger quantity that I divided up and used so that they have similar cuffs, but then the foot, I just took what I had and striped it. So this is what they look like. And for the heel is a fish lips kiss heel, but here I also used a lace, a very fine lace yarn as a reinforcement, just to make the heel a bit sturdy, because the heel is my kind of weak point. That's where I usually wear my socks through. So I just added a brown lace yarn that I had in stash for the heel. So good everyday socks. And then a final pair of socks that I went to see. We went to visit a friend, and I just blurted out, "Do you like socks? Do you need socks?" Because I've with my sock production this year, I have more than I need myself, really. But still, I just keep wanting to knit socks. So I asked my friend if she would perhaps like a pair of socks, and yes, she said sure. So I dug out some more stash yarn, or leftover yarn, and just knit a pair of some sturdier boot socks. All the other socks, and generally I just knit with finger and weight yarn, but these are knit in in Novitanalle, which is a worsted weight. No, it's a DK. It's a DK weight yarn. So Novitanalle is this yellowy green color is Novitanalle, and that's also a plant dyed yarn from my last year's dye session. And I think this is dyed with turmeric, and it was dyed on a sort of a gray beige base. So that's why it's a bit sort of not quite solid, or it has just this little bit of variegation to it. And the stripe and the cuff here has just a little bit of a twist on the knit stitches. And then I also use helical knitting here for the single stripes. And the purple yarn was also an old stash yarn that I just dug up. It's a poddar Finland 51. Let's see. And this is actually a 51% wool, 49% acrylic, so that's quite a lot of acrylic in this one. Not your most wonderful squishy yarn, but for a sturdy sock, I thought, that works. And this is the Nalle yarn, what I have left of it. So yeah, these are just a little bit bigger. I think maybe a size 38, or that's what I was aiming for anyway. So somewhat bigger than my own foot, which is a 36, a European 36. And if I want to knit gifts, I kind of need to start knitting slightly bigger sizes, because not everyone, or not that many, can actually fit into size 36 socks. But those were the socks, the sock production of the last couple of months. Then I thought I would show you a couple of hats that I actually knit earlier. I think I knit them sometime during the summer, but I haven't shown them, or I've kind of forgotten a bit about them. I have two hats. They are both the Oslo hat pattern by Petite Knits that just about everyone else has knitted. They're a bit different in size. I think this is the junior or even the children's size, and this is a one size up, because I found that this one was actually a bit tight. But it still works. I think I can probably still wear it. The fun part about this is that they are both knit with the same base yarn, but the added yarn, the yarn that I've held together with the base yarn is different, and that makes for quite a different result. Let me just show you the yarn. Oops. The base yarn is Louhittaren luola kytöläinen 2, which is a light fingering, or even a heavy lace yarn. I think maybe about 500 meters per 100 gram. But this is a lovely yarn. Lovely. I think it's a worsted spun yarn. So it's made from Finnish wool. So it's a locally produced yarn, and it is really, although it has this kind of rustic quality to it, it's really soft, and just feels really, it would be perfect for shawls, for instance, and would work well in sweaters as well, maybe held double or held together with another yarn. So a really lovely yarn. Highly recommend that, and I would definitely want to make something else of that myself. And then I've held that together for this one. I've held that together with a mohair, a silk mohair, which is a Rowan Kid Silk Case. Now this was also a deep stash yarn that I've had for ages and ages, and didn't really have a plan for. And mohair was really kind of out of fashion for a while, but as we know, it's now very much in demand, and it worked really well together with this. And I think this is wonderfully floofy and warm, and also this Kytelainen yarn is hand dyed, so it has some variegation to it, and you can just sense it in this hat, but it doesn't really it doesn't pop out, so gives it a really sort of lively look. Yeah, this is the band for the Kid Silk Case. Show, yeah. And then the other one, I tried holding together the Kytelainen with an alpaca. The alpaca, which is from Holst yarn, Titicaca, Holst Titicaca Camellia, which I've used for my sea blush sweater together with another Holst yarn. So for that one, I combined these two, and of course the result is very different. This is much more floofy. Now I will say I haven't washed and blocked this one yet, so it may also floof up a bit once I do that. But in general, it just feels, whereas this feels very warm, this doesn't have this airy feel to it yet. Let's see what happens when I block it. And this is a little bigger, so, but it's still fairly tight around. So I'm hoping, because for me, I need hats that don't creep up. I mean, that when you're out and about, this is what happens. Your hair kind of pushes it up. So I want hats that are hold tight around the ears, and we'll see how these perform. I haven't really needed hats yet. We have had really warm weather so far, so I haven't really tried to test run these yet. Yeah. So and the petite knit Oslo hat, for what it's worth, I mean, it's a very simple pattern. It's extremely simple, but it's not very well written. For a very simple pattern, it's actually unnecessarily complicated. But it's a hat. You'll manage even if the pattern isn't perfect. But I was a bit surprised that a pattern that's so popular wasn't better written than that. Oh well. Let's move on. Some shawls. This one I have shown on Instagram, and this has been finished for a long time already. I haven't actually started wearing it yet, though. How does this? This really washes the colors out, I feel. But you can see that it's garter stitch, and then it has this texture in some of the parts, and then it's striped, and then it's variegated, and some more texture, and so on. This is the Exordium shawl by Rebecca Picot. Maybe I showed it when I had started it, now that I think of it. And it is, I had perhaps expected it to be a little bit bigger, but actually it's fine. It works really well as a kind of wraparound shawl. And it's really, I do love these colors, and I loved working with the yarn. It was absolutely lovely. The green is a Kasakerho pom-pom, their BFL sock yarn in the colorway Salvia. So that's a fingering weight, a sock yarn. And the variegated yarn here is sock by Stu, yarn by Stu. Yeah, which I've also used for a pair of socks, the altitude socks, which I think I showed you last time. And it has all the colors, so you can combine it pretty much with anything. But generally, I think this is a really harmonious and really nice sort of combination, and a really lovely yarn, both of them, to work with. Oh, now I realized I showed you the back side. Let's do that again. I was wondering why it looks so funny. This is how the pattern, the sort of texture pattern looks. What it really looks like. I don't know if that makes such a big difference, but on the other hand, it's a good thing that you don't have to worry about if you're wearing it back to front. Yeah. And then I have another shawl, which I don't think I've shown you, and which I actually knit in quite a bit of a, not in a hurry, but it went fast because it was such fun. And this is the jämnt ojämnt, or evenly uneven, or unevenly even, well, either way, by Jenny Alderbrandt, a Swedish designer. It has all these different sections, and it's just such fun. It starts at the end, then you have stripes, and you have short rows, and you have some yarn over or eyelet rows, and then you have some waves. Yeah, all the way to the end. So it's kind of asymmetrical and long. And as you can see, I haven't woven in the ends yet, and I haven't blocked it, so it will probably gain a bit of size as well once I block it. Yeah, it looks all funny now, scrunched up like this. Yeah. But I think I love the colors, and I love the pattern. It's such fun. The yarns, now the green is the same as in the previous shawl. So that's also the Kasakerho pom-pom. So one skein of Kasakerho pom-pom BFL actually lasted for 2 shawls. So that's the green one, and this sort of a crew or natural white is Johanna's Garn. She's our local dyer, and it's her merino sock in the colorway Champagne. And then this section here, that's Lanka Kalpakera, her hand-dyed yarn, her merino sock yarn, which I've used. I bought several colors, and I've used some for socks, and then I used this one, and this was also really, really lovely. beautiful. And then I have a fourth color. This was actually meant for only 3 colors, but I had a fourth color that I wanted to blend in, and that you can see that here in the stripes. Yeah, I mostly used it for the stripes in several places, but you can see it here. And that is the Strömsö Louhittaren luola. What's the name of the yarn base now? Her regular sock yarn base, and in the Strömsö colorway. It will come to me just now, the name of the yarn. Väinämöinen, yeah. And that's a yarn that I also used for some socks previously. One of the Handmade Sock Society socks I knit mostly in that one, and I had some leftovers of that, and that also worked really well in this combination. And that, I think that was a really, really fun yarn. I don't think that it's a repeatable colorway, but it was a fun yarn that you could use for just about anything. And I think it has a nice effect here as well. So, shawls. Now that I've made 2 shawls that are some in the sort of green spectrum, I realized I don't really have, tops that go in that colorway. So now I have to renew my wardrobe so that I can wear my shawls. Logic, isn't it? You know what just happened? I just talked through a whole long segment of my ongoing projects and my yarns, and it didn't record. And so I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to make this a 2-part episode where I film the yarn segment again, and I will publish that at another time. But right now I think I'd like to go out and enjoy the nice weather for just a bit. And so I will put up the first part, which I've recorded so far, and then you'll have to wait around for the second part to come in just a little bit later. So thanks for watching. Enjoy your day, enjoy your knitting, and I'll see you soon. Bye.